There's one thing all sides in this debate agree on. Today, this plot of land is hardly inviting. A private fitness club surrounded by a large fence and an asphalt parking lot. But what should replace it? Voters' answer to that question Tuesday could shape the course of waterfront development for years to come. Project supporter Tim Colon sees two options with an easy choice.
One is to keep what we have that generates about $100,000 a year for the city, versus a wonderful project. It builds housing, it builds a large amount of new public open space that doesn't exist now.
One of the most contentious issues is the height. After years of public meetings and approval by the San Francisco Port, Planning Commission, and Board of Supervisors, developers got permission to build some of the structures 134 feet in the air, 12 stories up. Former San Francisco Mayor Art Agnos is a leading critic of the project.
Well, I think this project is the first brick in what appears to be a new wall made of steel and glass.
As mayor, Agnos led the charge to demolish the Embarcadero Freeway and open up the waterfront. He sees the proposed development as a giant step backwards.
The old Embarcadero Freeway we took down 22 years ago was a concrete monster half the size of what this building is proposed to be. And it creates a precedent on the waterfront, a new precedent of busting through height limits and bulk limits. It threatens the waterfront accessibility for all of San Francisco.
But speaking for the Yes on Props B and C campaigns, Tim Colon of the San Francisco Housing Action Coalition says the design of 8 Washington fits the surrounding buildings, including the 22-story Golden Gateway apartments next door. It's time, Colon says, to put this plot of land to better use.
When the freeway came down, that gave us a once-in-a-generation opportunity to use waterfront land in better, more imaginative ways. So when folks say we've got to preserve our precious waterfront, I'm not exactly sure what city they're talking about, because the land is so valuable to us that we use it to park our cars on.
As part of the deal, developers will put $11 million toward the construction of affordable housing somewhere else in the city. But former Mayor Agnos says developers are now driving the city's housing policies, with little interest in building housing the average San Franciscan can buy.
I think that this project is the canary in the mine. I think that if this project goes forward as planned for millionaire housing at $5 million average a condo, it is the death knell of middle class and affordable housing in this city, because it sets a precedent, not only on the waterfront, but elsewhere in the city where desirable lots exist for rich people's housing.
This battle comes in the midst of a building boom that is driving housing prices up and out of reach for many. For that reason, this project has taken on greater meaning, says University of San Francisco political science professor Corey Cook.
On the one hand, it's actually a pretty small issue on a pretty small plot of land, but I think, symbolically and politically, it's really emerged in this much bigger, more complex question about, the economic growth in the city and the future of housing in the city.
Adding to the intensity of the debate, Cook adds, is the location, a San Francisco waterfront many see as the city's backyard.
The waterfront has become sort of the jewel of the city, and a lot of people, I think, view this as their neighborhood.
After an exhaustive approval process, opponents put Prop C on the ballot as a referendum on the project. Supporters responded with their own ballot measure, Prop B. In this off-year election, turnout is likely to be low, but San Franciscans we talked to seem to be paying close attention. Judith Wilson-Pates says she'd like to see a different kind of development there.
More affordable housing, middle income and, et cetera.
I actually think it's a smart development for the city. I think it's going to help bring in revenue, and it will provide parking.
If either Prop B or C pass, the project moves forward. If they both fail, city planners will go back to the drawing board.